Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Diablo 4 video, I want to talk to you about the PTR Campfire 2.0 chat where they're talking about everything new coming to the game. There's some massive changes and I can't wait to talk about them all with you today. Before we jump right in though, I want to go ahead and just recap some of the Gamescom announcements. Over at Gamescom over in Germany, they did announce the new mercenaries coming to the game. There's 4 different mercenaries coming to the game, which is pretty awesome. There's a demon child thing, there's a berserker, a shield bearer, and a ranger type of mercenary that can join you. Looks super awesome. They also revealed the Undercity, which is a new game mode, the Dark Citadel, as well as a party finder, because the Dark Citadel is going to be a multiplayer focused game mode. And so I think they gave us the party finder to kind of make us feel better about being able to find people to play with. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the different game modes a little bit later in the video. For now, let's go ahead and talk about the campfire they recently had, talking about the upcoming PTR and some massive changes coming to the game. I will have the video timestamped as well down below for your convenience. Let's go ahead and talk about 2.0 of Diablo 4, the new Diablo 4 basically overhaul of the game. Earlier on, they did say that they completely redid loot and itemization, and they did with the masterwork changes back in Season 4. And they said that changes coming to the game are going to be on par with those changes to loot, except these are going to be changes to progression and difficulty of the game. And I can't wait to talk about it all today because I really think they've hit the mark on this one. On the campfire, they talked about the changes coming to leveling your character, paragon changes, as well as difficulty changes, glyph changes, rune words, lots of information. I'm going to try to get this all to you in one nice little package for you to go ahead and go over. So I appreciate you hanging out with me here today. Very first change that they talked about is a pretty big one. Currently, the max level in the game is level 100. When Vessel of Hatred comes out, and also in the PTR if you choose to play that, max level will be level 60. This means we're going to get 10 more skill points to invest into our skill tree. We're going to see a lot of power coming out of this update. It's going to be absolutely wild. Once you've hit level 60, you'll have access to the Paragon system. The Paragon system is very similar to what we have now. A couple things are changing though. Instead of currently you can get 200 Paragon points to spend, we are going to have 300 Paragon points. We're going to have an extra 100 Paragon points to dump into our Paragon boards. Another really cool thing with the new Paragon system is this will be realm-wide. What the realm means is if you're on the seasonal realm or the eternal realm, all the characters on either your seasonal realm or eternal realm will have access to your Paragon points. So if you're playing on seasonal and you've already unlocked 100 Paragon points and you decide to level up a new character, just level them up to 60 and then you have access to those already unlocked Paragon points that you unlocked on your other character. Pretty awesome thing to see here where you just have access to all of those. The only part of this is in order to access the Paragon system, even on your alts, you do have to level up that character to 60 to then be able to access the Paragon points. I was kind of hoping that we would be able to just from level 1 be able to use the Paragon points. I mean, that'd be a massive jump in power, but it really makes sense as to why they're doing this, especially with the difficulty changes that they talked about. With Vessel of Hatred, world tiers will be completely gone. They're going to be adding 8 new difficulties to the game. When you're leveling up your character from level 1 to 60, you're going to be advancing through different difficulties at your own leisure. 4 different difficulties is normal, hard, expert, and then penitent. Once you're level 60, you can then go into the pit, and the pit is going to be how you unlock the 4 torment levels that they're also adding. So the 8 new difficulties is normal, hard, expert, penitent. Once you're 60, you can unlock torment 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, in order to unlock Torment 1, you have to beat a pit level 20. Torment 2, you have to beat a pit level 35, and it goes up by increments of 15. So Torment 3 is pit 50, and to unlock the highest difficulty, Torment 4, you have to clear a pit level 65. And once you are in Torment 4, that is the highest that the monsters will scale, outside of possibly mine cages. We didn't get a lot of information on that. But basically what they've done is they've taken your leveling journey from level 1 to 60, and you have a way to kind of work your way through the difficulties. Like once you feel you're up to the challenge, to bump it up to expert or penitent, you can kind of push your leveling journey in that sense. And this makes sense like early on, but eventually, people will just be power leveling. They'll just immediately go into Penitent, get power leveled to 60. That's inevitable, and that's what's going to happen. But it is cool that they kind of revisited and updated the difficulty system, since world tiers did feel a little bit outdated. Now, along with your higher torment difficulties, they are also going to do what other action RPGs do as well, is where the higher the torment, you get a kind of a penalty to your armor and resistance stats. At the very highest difficulty, Torment 4, you will have minus 1,000 armor and minus 100% resistance. And I think this is an okay change, because currently armor cap and resistance cap is pretty easy to get. And I just don't think that'll be that big of a change. You'll just have to find, better items that we're going to talk about a little bit here with the itemization changes. Before we get to that, though, the other thing I wanted to point out here, and I know I was questioning this during the campfire chat, and I finally got the answer, is how is monster scaling going to work? Monsters will actually scale off of what difficulty you're on. There's not going to be monster levels anymore. We're not going to need to worry about what level the monster is that you're fighting to kind of gauge your difficulty. Nothing like that. It's going to be based off what difficulty you are playing on. So what this means is once you have access to Torment 4, you are fighting the highest scaled monsters in the game. Again, as I said, outside of mind cages, they haven't given us a lot of information. But mind cages, if you aren't aware, is when you're in Helltide, you can get the profane mind cages, and you can use up to 3 at a time. And this makes the monsters more challenging, and you also get more rewards along with that. So I'm hoping to see that in Torment 4, the open world dungeons. I'd like to see a mind cage for everything eventually. I think it'd be really awesome to be able to kind of choose your own difficulty and scale it up in that sense. Another really massive change coming to the game is going to be with their itemization changes. I know we mentioned earlier we saw the Masterworking really back in Season 4 changing itemization. They're going to actually be making an even bigger change to the itemization as well. Currently, when you get to World Tier 4, every single item you find is an ancestral item. Now, if you remember when Diablo 4 very first came out, they had normal items, and then you could get sacred items, and then you could get ancestral items. Now, they're completely getting rid of sacred items. There's only going to be normal, and there's going to be ancestral items. Ancestral items will not start to drop until you are in Torment 1, which is really the start of the new end game, basically. And what's going to happen when you get to Torment 1 is when an item drops, it's not going to always be an ancestral item. It's going to have a chance to drop as ancestral. And I think this is a great change because it makes ancestral items actually meaningful. With the current state of the game, literally everything is ancestral, and so ancestral means nothing. But with this change coming to the game, it's going to kind of flip that upside down and make ancestral items more exciting. Now, eventually later on, obviously, you're going to have all ancestral items. And if an item drops that's not ancestral, it's going to be an immediate salvage. Eventually, you'll get to that point. That's just kind of part of the game, I guess. But what makes ancestral items so awesome in this update is when they drop, they will have a guaranteed greater affix on them. And of course, they can roll more than one greater affix, but guaranteed to have at least one. Basically, they're making these ancestrals way stronger. So not only did you get the guaranteed greater affix, but you're also going to get ancestral levels of legendary aspects. Basically, this means that our legendary aspects we have currently are just going to get even more stronger. Now, it did look like, and I'm not 100% sure, someone let me know in the comments if this is correct or not, but it looked like when you find an ancestral item with a high rolled ancestral legendary aspect on it, when you salvage it, that level gets saved into your codex. I sure hope that's the case, because if not, then you have to run around finding the, if those levels of aspects can only be dropped, then that could really add to that RNG chase. But I do think they get added into your codex. I think this is a great change. Like I said, it's going to be weird seeing items drop that are non-ancestral and deciding if they're good or not up until you have, ancestral in that slot. But the other part of this too is the way that Torment 1 through 4 works is once you're in Torment 1, you are finding these ancestral items. And as you go to Torment 2, Torment 3, and Torment 4, you're finding the same ancestral items, but the only change between Torment levels is more items drop, so you get more chances to find ancestral gear. You're not going to find more powerful gear in higher Torments, to say. The other thing worth noting here, too, I guess maybe I should have mentioned this at the start of the itemization topic, but they are changing item level in the game. Currently, the highest item level you can find is item level 925. They're going to be lowering that down to the highest item level you can find on a legendary non-ancestral piece of gear is 750. Now, I believe that will kind of, the item level that drops, I think, will scale off of your character level. And then the ancestral items are going to have the highest item level you can find, item level 800. So they're changing it. They're kind of lowering the item level there. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about glyphs. Glyphs, again, I mean, there's so many changes, and I keep saying everything's a massive change, but glyphs are getting overhauled massively. Current state of the game, you can level up a glyph to level 21. When Vessel Hatred comes out, you'll be able to level a glyph up to level 100. And you'll see why they went with that level here in a minute. But glyphs are also going to get a new rarity. You're going to be able to get legendary glyphs. Currently, you can only get your magic and rare glyphs. Now you're going to be able to get legendary glyphs. Now, legendary glyphs is also going to allow you to increase the radius even further than we can now. And on top of that, when you make a glyph legendary, you'll get new stats on them as well. The way it's going to work is when you level up a glyph to level 15, it'll increase the radius. And then when you level up the glyph to level 46, it will become legendary, increase the radius again, and on top of that, you'll get more stats on that glyph. So legendary glyphs are going to be really, really powerful. Now let's go and talk about how you level up these. So glyph leveling is no longer going to be from Nightmare Dungeons. Instead, it's going to be from the pit. Currently, the pit goes up to level 200. They're going to be lowering that down. So the highest pit level you can possibly do is pit level 100, which matches the highest level of a glyph. Leveling up your glyphs is tied to the pit entirely. So the way that this is going to work is when you go into the pit and you finish a run, when you upgrade a glyph, it'll have a chance to succeed at upgrading. It's no longer based on glyph XP or anything like that. It's a chance to rank up. Now, if you're running a pit that is 10 levels higher than the glyph, you'll get a guaranteed success. But if the pit is 20 levels higher than the glyph, you will get bonus upgrades as well. So this will kind of speed up that leveling process. Basically, just think legendary gems from Diablo 3. I think the glyphs being tied to the pits are a really awesome thing, and it'll be familiar from playing Diablo 3 with their greater rifts as well. So not a terrible change. I'm pretty excited for the legendary glyphs. The bigger radius is also going to bring in more power to the game as well. I know we talked a little bit about Paragon points earlier, about how we're going to have an extra 100 Paragon points for a total of 300 Paragon points to spend into our board. Paragon points are realm-wide. I mentioned that as well. But another change coming to Paragon is each class is going to get a brand new Paragon board, but they're going to only allow you to get 5 Paragon boards. And the reason they say they want to do that is because right now the best thing to do is to just go glyph to glyph and kind of get through the boards as quick as you can to get to the next glyph. Now, I've seen builds that use 8 glyphs, and it's just because glyphs are just stronger than Paragon boards. And they're trying to limit us by only allowing us to pick 5 boards. They want us to spend our points in the boards as opposed to rushing for the glyphs. Now, to me, it seems like they're kind of limiting us, and I think they should let the player choose how we want to spend our Paragon points. Don't force us to only pick 5 boards because you want us to fill out the board. The fact that players are not filling out their board and they're rushing to glyphs currently is because there's a bigger issue. Glyphs are stronger than the Paragon boards themselves. So maybe make the Paragon boards more appealing and leave the decision up to the players instead of just limiting us to 5 Paragon boards. At the end of the day, though, each class getting a new Paragon board, that's exciting. I really just don't like them kind of limiting our choices when it comes to the Paragon system. They're going to be adding new tempering changes as well. Not massive here, but just some changes we'll go over. They're going to be adding double damage on skills. as a temper, and they're also going to be adding hit twice as a temper. Basically what this means is double damage on skills it means a skill will echo. So if you cast a skill that deals like maybe 3 hits or something like that, it'll be echoed and that whole skill will roll twice. Now hit twice is different than that. It means that when something deals damage, that damage has a chance to hit a second time, not the entire skill. On top of that, they're also adding size and duration to utility, which is a nice change. I think most of them already are, but it sounded like there were some choices that just kind of weren't fair where you're going over utility versus damage. So they're just kind of streamlining it more, putting it where some of these tempers should have been in the first place. We're also going to be seeing a lot of class changes and class updates. The very first thing that I'm pretty excited here for is your ultimates can actually gain ranks. Right now you can put 1 point into your ultimate to unlock it, and then you have 2 connected like passive nodes to buff up that ultimate. But in Vessel of Hatred, you're going to be able to put up to, I believe it was 5 points into your ultimate, which will increase the damage and the cooldown reduction of the ultimate. On top of that, each class is going to get a new skill, a new key passive, new passive nodes, new unique items, and as I said, 1 new Paragon board per class as well. This is awesome, especially since we're going to have, remember, 10 more skill points to put into these skills, passives, and ranks. Pretty awesome changes coming there. They're also going to be adding some new mythics. My favorite one that they showed off was this one that has to do with stealth. And this is going to synergize up with some other stealth mechanics as well. And then there was this one that has to do with, I think it was Lilith's Favor or something like that, where you get a damage buff. And if you're in a party, you can steal your party member's damage buff. It's kind of weird, but... And there's a third mythic, I believe, in the patch notes as well, which I will have linked down in the description. So new mythics coming as well, of course. Lots of new exciting stuff coming in Vessel of Hatred. They're also going to be adding some quality of life features, 1 new stash tab, a new inventory slot for gems and runes. We will talk about rune words here in a little bit. They're also changing up dungeons. Basically what they're doing here is they're taking kind of the annoying midpoint things in the dungeon, like some you have to kind of click on a little like button that's really hard to see. Basically they're removing those and they're just putting in packs of monsters. I think this is a great change. Another change coming to Nightmare Dungeons that I'm excited for is Nightmare Dungeons have nothing to do with glyphs anymore, which is great. Instead, they're going to drop masterworking materials. So you're incentivized to full clear these Nightmare Dungeons to get as many masterworking materials that you can. They did mention the campfire, though, that the end boss will drop a whole bunch of masterworking materials. So I think, for me anyway, I'm probably still going to just rush to the boss to get that masterwork material massive loot drop, basically. But I don't know, maybe if the monsters drop enough throughout the dungeon, maybe I'll full clear if the reward is worth it. They also talked about a new feature coming that they announced, and this is rune words. Rune words are from Diablo 2, where you can put runes into your gear, and connecting them will make a rune word. Now, the way they're going to work in Diablo 4 is kind of interesting. So in order to make 1 rune word, which is basically a new spell, you have to have 2 runes. Now, the top rune is going to decide what you have to do to gain offering. And offering is a new resource that is just for these rune words. And once you have enough offering from doing that thing that the top rune says, then the second part of the rune, the bottom rune, is going to be what happens. For example, they showed off the top rune being once you move 5 meters, you gain, I think it was 50 offering or something like that. And then the second part was once you have 100 offering, you cast Earthquake. So once you move 10 meters, gotten enough offering. So basically every 10 meters you move, you're casting Earthquake. Pretty awesome. I mean, it's a passive thing that's just kind of happening while you're doing something. There is, I believe, 45 runes in the game. And so there's going to be way different ways to activate and gain offerings and way more effects that you can do. And that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about right now. So the offering system is kind of the new resource we talked about. We kind of covered that. Now, before we kind of dive into all of it, though, I just want to mention that the Undercity is a new game mode coming that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And that's going to be a place where you go that's going to have a higher chance to drop runes. So if you're wanting to farm runes, you're going to want to farm the Undercity. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a minute as well. But the way that rune words are going to work is each class is going to share 2 of their skills and 1 legendary aspect per class. will be available through the rune word system. So what this means is if you're playing a barbarian, you could get potentially the teleport skill from sorcerer. So you could even use teleport as a barbarian, which is pretty cool. So you can kind of get cross-class skills through the system. The combinations are going to be pretty wild. And also having access to legendary aspect through this system as well. It's going to be pretty awesome. Runes are also going to come in rarities. You're going to have magic, rare, legendary, and mythic runes. And it's pretty awesome because when a rune drops, you're going to have some sort of use for it. You're not going to need to just throw it away, salvage it. You're going to have some sort of use for it no matter what. And I love that because it just feels like you're constantly getting better, even though maybe it's not a rune you want. There's something you can do with it. Basically, what you can do is, let's say you get 3 runes that you don't want. You can turn those into 1 new rune that's guaranteed to not be the one that you just broke down. So a new rune through that. And by doing that, it also has a chance to upgrade the rarity as well. Now, rune words, you can only wear 2 rune words at a time, which would take up 4 gem slots. So 2 different items would have to have 2 gem slots, and then you put your two runes in each of those, then you have 2 rune words. So the gem slots will be consumed with the runes. You can't put gems in there as well. It's just one of the, either a gem or a rune. And there's 4 different item slots you can choose from. Helmets are going to have 2 gem slots, chest, pants, and weapon. You just pick 2 of those to make into a rune word with 2 runes. Then you have set up. And you cannot use 2 of the same rune words at once either. So 1 at a time, but you can have up to 2 going at a time, which is pretty awesome. Now, I mentioned you can get mythic rune words. In order to craft a mythic rune, you're going to have 1 resplendent spark, which you get from breaking down a mythic item. And then you have to have 10 legendary runes of a specific name, 10 rare runes, and 10 magic runes. So it's going to be quite the journey getting able to craft a mythic rune. But I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going to see some really powerful rune words come out of this. I said there's 45 different runes in all the different combinations. Loads and loads of rune words is going to come out of the system. They do have a full list of all the runes and rune word combinations in the patch notes. Again, those will be linked down below the video as well. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here today and talking about this. 2 more things I want to touch on. The next thing is, this is just kind of an opinion piece here, and I just want to share what I'm noticing. And it seems like they're having a lot of different game modes because they want the player to be able to choose what kind of game mode they like and what they want to do. And that's great. But my concern is that, and it's not really a concern, just something I've noticed, is that each game mode serves its own purpose. Nightmare Dungeons is masterwork in materials. Pit is going to be for leveling glyphs. Undercity is for your runes. The Dark Citadel is your new multiplayer game mode, but that's going to be where you get your temper rerolls. And I'm assuming Infernal Hordes is going to stay for your materials, loot, and gold. I don't know if they're going to keep it the same as it is now, but the Infernal Hordes is a great place to farm. I have a feeling they're going to nerf it, though, just so people are incentivized to interact with all the other game modes that they have available. Again, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing they're doing it this way. I mean, it's kind of nice to have options and kind of switch it up. Like if you're like, well, I'm kind of tired of farm masterwork and mats, I'm going to go farm some runes now for a while, just to kind of switch it up and keep it fresh. But on the flip side of that, if there's a game mode that like maybe you really hate running Pit, you have to. So now basically that just becomes your new Nightmare Dungeon is now Pit, basically. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it's nice to have a variety of game modes choices. Last but not least, I want to go ahead and talk about the PTR, since that's kind of what the campfire was about. The PTR is going to be releasing in 2 parts. Part 1 is going to come out on September 4th. That's coming up very soon from the day of recording this video. And runes will not be in until part 2, which will go up on the PTR on September 6th. And the whole PTR is going to run, and it will end on September 11th. So about a week you have of PTR to test out all this new stuff that we talked about in this video. I don't know if Undercity and Dark Citadel will be in there, but runes and difficulty will be to check out. I may check it out. We'll see. Also in the campfire, they asked what they want players to test, and they said they want you to kind of test up leveling with the new difficulty system. But if you don't want to, they do have boosts available to test out everything as well. So if you check out the PTR, enjoy it. There you go. All the information about PTR dates and everything available. that's going to wrap it up for this Diablo 4 Campfire 2.0 recap video, I guess. I really hope that I tried my best to keep this video as short and sweet as possible and to the point. Hopefully you found the video useful, entertaining, maybe you learned something or just had fun hanging out with us here today. Whatever it is, I appreciate you so much. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today. But don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.